What's up, guys? Today we're going over the new linear fusion rifle from the Nightfalls this season, and this is going to be a 3-round burst brand 1. In this video, we're going to be going over the roll you want on this weapon and its DPS, comparing it to a few things, seeing how good it is overall, and just is it worth farming in the GM this week or whenever it returns this season. So starting off, looking at the batteries on this weapon, the base mag is going to be a 5. If you go with enhanced, it will take it up to 6, or if you use backup, it will also take it up to 6, but with them combined, it still stays at 6, even though it says it should go up to 7, it just doesn't. But then if you use ionized battery, it will take it up to a 6 and stack with backup mag, taking it to a 7. Then if you use Reservoir Burst on this weapon, Reservoir Burst is going to be +1 to the mag. I don't have a roll with ionized and Reservoir Burst yet, so I'm not sure if it goes up to 8. I don't think it does, if I remember correctly from other weapons. But overall, I would recommend just ionized or accelerated recoils for a little bit higher DPS on this weapon. So starting off with the perks in the left on this weapon, there's going to be really 2 that I'm going to talk about first, and that's going to be Envious and Rewind Rounds. They're going to do kind of the same thing in 2 different ways. So first with Rewind on this weapon, you would think it would be great because it's going to be a 3-round burst and you're going to be getting a lot of hits with the weapon, but the way it interacts with Rewind Rounds is from a 7 mag. If I shoot off all the bullets, obviously hit them all, it only gave me 3 back, and from that 3 it gave me 2, and from that 2 it would give you 0. So starting with a 7 mag, I could shoot 12 in a row, so only 5 back to the mag overall. But now we've enhanced the perk, it should be a little bit better. And this time I just had the base 6 mag. I don't have any great god rolls yet, so I was kind of hesitant to enhance a lot of these. I did waste a lot of materials in this video, but it went to 3 once again, then 2, then 0 in terms of the ammo return to the mag, which allowed me to shoot 11 in a row, the same 5 back as before. So not bad, but not as good as you might have expected. But if you use the Origin Trait Vice Stinger, this will randomly have the ability to refill the magazine. So now pairing this with Rewind, I think more often than not, unless you get super unlucky, you'll not have to reload this weapon in most boss fights in the game, and you'll just be able to go the entire phase without reloading. As long as you don't get super unlucky, you can definitely shoot like 20 plus straight with these 2 perks combined. But worst case scenario, in almost every encounter in the game, even if you don't get lucky Vice Stinger procs, you will have to reload at max 1 time with this weapon, because the max reserves is only 23. So even if you can only shoot 12 off in a row, as we showed with Rewind Rounds, even if you don't use Vice Stinger, that's still only 1 reload. The other perk will be Envious Assassin, which I think if you have the ability to set it up, which in most cases you will be able to, with the base mag of 6, you could double proc Envious to get up to 18. If you have Reservoir Burst, you could get up to 21. And combining that with Vice Stinger, once again, you probably will never have to reload the weapon in most boss fights. So overall, between those 2 perks, I don't really think there's a huge difference. I think Rewind is going to be more plug and play, no setup required. That could be handy in some boss fights. If you're doing like mechanics in the Witness encounter while your teammates are doing Aclear, you might not be able to proc Envious. While if you're the Aclear person, obviously you're going to easily proc Envious. So really at the end of the day, it's just personal preference. I think me personally, I would just go for Envious. I think it's a little bit better for journal play. It will have the same result, if not a better result, than Rewind in most cases. But with either perk, you shouldn't have to reload, as mentioned multiple times. So if you're just trying to farm this weapon, get 1 of the 2, and you'll just be good to go. Then moving on to the right column perks. First off with Reservoir Burst. This is when the battery is full, so obviously this will pair greatly with Envious Assassin. This will be a 25% buff to all these shots at max capacity or higher. As mentioned with Envious Assassin, we can get up to a mag of 21, which will allow us to shoot all 15 Reservoir Burst shots in a row. I don't have the roll yet, but that is how it would work. But it's only going to be a 25% buff. There are higher buffs on this weapon. And for the Aclear potential of Reservoir Burst, I think what makes that perk great on regular fusions is the same thing that makes Chain Reaction great on Waveframes. The base shot itself can kill so many veins, and everything that dies will then explode, creating a huge explosion. But with a linear, it's going to be kind of hard to get multiple kills with a single shot. So overall, it's just not as good as on a regular fusion, and you're trying to get something out of your heavy that I just don't think is necessary, which is Aclear. I think with all the great primaries and specials and builds in this game, you just definitely don't need Aclear from your heavy. So I just wouldn't recommend that perk overall. But that plus Envious is like a kind of cool rule. If you get it along the way, I would keep it, but it's not something I'm gonna be going for myself. Instead, for damage, you would just use bait and switch. This will be a 30% buff, and unlike other bait and switch weapons where the first bullet itself doesn't get the full buff, this one, since it's a 3-round burst, as you see, the second and third shot of the burst get the 30% buff, so you almost have it from the first shot on. And with enhanced, it will last for 11 seconds. So looking at the DPS of this weapon with bait and switch, as mentioned, more often than not, you won't have to reload this weapon, but in the off chance you do, testing the 1 and 2 mag DPS and the total damage output with the 23 max reserves. Looking at that, the 1 mag is 96,000. If you have to reload, it'll drop down to 89,000, and the total is 2.6 million, which is very high. That is where linears definitely really shine. And the DPS number of the 1 mag is honestly not that bad. It's kind of a little bit behind like Still Hunt Nighthawk, but not really that far behind. So comparing it to the king of linears, the Cataclysmic, with bait and switch once again, this was I have 4 times the charm, which unlike the ammo perks on the burst one, 4 times the charm will actually give you ammo from thin air, greatly increasing the total damage of this weapon. And once again, it holds 23 with max reserves. So DPS starts off a little bit higher at 102, but you'll have to reload this weapon a lot more than the burst, eventually dropping the DPS over 3 to 80,000, while the total damage is a lot higher. The difference between Rewind or Envious and 4 times the charm is with Envious or Rewind, you won't have to reload nearly as often, meaning better DPS over your entire reserves. But with 4 times the charm, the ammo is from thin air, which will greatly increase the total damage of the weapon. So it kind of comes down to what do you want, more total damage or better DPS over your entire reserves, which is pretty cool that these weapons are honestly pretty well balanced, where there is like a real decision of which one you want to use, and it might just come down to the situation. And finally, one role that I think might be worth keeping if you get it along the way would be Surrounded plus Cornered. Both these perks work the exact same way, where you have to be surrounded by 2 or more enemies. And Surrounded will be the highest buff on the weapon at 44% when enhanced. And if we look at the DPS with Cornered, that's going to be a 15% increase to the rate of fire, taking the 1 mag to 111,000, the 2 mag still over 102, and the total now is going to be pretty close to the Cataclysmic at 3.2. So this combo, in the right situation, could be not only the best for total damage output, it's also the best for DPS, as long as you're in a boss fight where you can be surrounded. Once again, I don't think this is going to be a role that you should necessarily farm for. It's just something that you should keep along the way if you get it while you're farming for just your Envious, Rewind, plus bait and switch role. And I think this role could be the best for just general play. A lot of seasonal activities or farming overthrows, you're just going to be constantly surrounded and take advantage of that higher buff without having to proc like bait and switch. It's just always going to be there as long as you're surrounded. Comboing that with Cornered for the faster charge time, it could be just one of the all-around best roles for just general play, and in boss fights where you can use it, very, very good there also. So overall, recapping, the one role you want on this weapon is going to be Accelerated Coils or Ionized Battery, both of which with backup mag, with Envious or Rewind plus bait and switch. Whichever one of those two you get first, I would just be done if you didn't want to play James any longer. And along the way of farming that role, if you get a Cornered plus Rounded, or if you get an Envious plus Reservoir Burst, I would just keep them. But if I already had the first role, I would just kind of be done. And I don't think going further for the other 2 roles isn't necessary by any means. They're just something to hang on to if you do get them. And yeah, I think that's going to be it for the video. There might be a little bit of gameplay left. Like usual, thanks for watching. Catch you guys next time.